All right, you guys, Mondays with the Mako, we're back. It's already the fourth session. We're halfway through, or actually more than halfway through after our time with David today. So thanks, you guys, for hanging with me and for the feedback from Alistair, from Matt, from Chris in our session last week on faith in sport, the connection. Amazing, you guys. Thank you so much. I'm blessed to have David Holland, a terrific leader and CEO of EXELA Limited in Cheltenham, England, with us today to talk about leadership and development of self and others. So David, brother, thank you for taking the time and spending your Mondays with the Mako.
No problem, Jeremiah. Always good to hang out with you.
It's always good to hang out with you. You're in your beautiful garden in awesome Cheltenham, the spa town. Had a great time with you there, David, and you helped me with some leadership stuff, and I want to bring that to this community today. So we're going to get right into it and see if we can get this to around 12, 13 minutes today. Tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are on leadership, just that word, that definition. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's good question. I mean, leadership basically is providing a direction in which people are going to follow. It fit into all sorts of walks of life. There's leaders, and that for me, that's what it means. It's just having people follow you in the direction you're traveling in.
Terrific, David. Leaders lead by example. Tell me a little bit about your background with leadership. You've got an awesome background in more of a corporate feel, but now you're a small business owner. So tell me a little bit about both of those.
Yeah, and I think that within the corporate environment or a larger business environment, there's some efforts put into developing leadership and some thinking around what leadership really is and developing the skills. Not really the case in small businesses. Like most things in small business, it kind of creeps up on you unexpectedly. It doesn't mean you can't do some research and some learning and develop leadership skills oneself, but usually there's nobody around to point these things out to you.
Tell me a little bit more about that, because that was going to be my next question, Dee. What are leaders born, or are we bred and groomed over time? What are your thoughts there? Give me a little bit more.
Yeah, I think leadership is definitely a skill, so it can be developed. So anybody can develop leadership skills. Great leaders and inspirational leaders, like most skills, people can be born with a higher propensity to be able to execute skills. So definitely, people can just be better made up to be greater leaders. But anybody can be a leader. You just simply have to learn the skills it takes and practice.
Awesome. Tell me about some of those skills or how you practice and develop yourself in your leadership aptitudes, David. What are some things that you're doing?
Yeah, the interesting thing for running a small business is really you become a leader when you get a team. So you start to develop people in a team, and those people usually look to you for direction and leadership. So whether you like it or not, you are the leader. There's a couple of ways that you can kind of go about that. You can manage people for sure, and you can definitely manage teams. That doesn't mean you're necessarily providing leadership direction on a kind of a broader scale. But management is a form of leadership. It's telling people in the direction you want them to travel. It's interesting in small business, you end up with a number of teams, whether you like it or not, which isn't usually the case in corporate life. So you end up with internal teams, employees and people staff members around you, which you need to lead those. And then you have external teams as well. So very often as a small business owner, you're working with partners, whether they're suppliers to you or whether they're customers of yours. So there's a broader leadership requirements for small business owners to kind of master, maybe even so than in the corporate world, where you're very much focused on internal leadership for the organization itself.
Excellent, David. Excellent. Tell me right now at EXELA, how many team members do we have?
Well, we got 6 staff members, so 6 people in the office every day who we're working with. But we've also got 7 other people who are external contractors. One in Sweden who runs her own business. So while she's a partner, she's also running her own business as well. I've also got a developer over in the Philippines who is running his own business and needs leading. And then I've got a number of consultants in the UK who are running their own business and need leading. And then I've got teams out in kind of business partner teams of mine where I get a lot of leads, particularly from Entrepreneur Circle, for example, where I need to interact with the people in that organization. And then there's Infusionsoft. So Infusionsoft being a strategic part of my business. So I need to interact with people in Infusionsoft and find a way to influence that organization, because that organization's success is critical to the success of my business. So I'm acutely aware of and interested in working with the partner, the external organizations as well.
Right. Awesome, David. Tell me about your style of leadership. I know there's a bunch of study been done about this different styles of leaders out there. How would you define your style, your leadership style?
Good question, and it changes and evolves. I mean, I very much am a hands-off leader of my internal team, so I kind of just figured that if I give them some direction and explain to them the why of what we're doing, and they'll figure it out for themselves. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they need more managing rather than leading. Other times, showing them some leadership is absolutely fine, and they can figure it out for themselves. Working with external partners, as I say, is interesting because you've kind of got two sorts of leadership or two sorts of influence that you can deploy with external organizations. You can either categorize this as lobbying or leadership. So lobbying is much, much easier to work with external partners from a lobbying point of view. With a lobbying point of view is very focused on me persuading an external organization to do the things that I want them to do to help my organization succeed. So that's kind of lobbying. And then there's leadership, which is a lot harder because I have to try to deploy some kind of leadership into an external organization, which gets me to where I want to go, but also is generally much more inclusive and much broader than simply my organization. It definitely has to involve very strong alignments to the external partners' goals and their desires and their styles as well. So you have to be very adaptive in leadership style. I don't think there is one leadership style which is necessarily going to make you successful at all times. You have to be reasonably flexible in your approach.
Oh, I love it, David. You've got to be adaptable. You've got to be able to shift in between a few different leadership styles or skill sets there. That's strong. That's amazing. Tell me this. How important is accountability within leadership? Talk to me a little bit about accountability.
Well, you mean accountability on the leader?
Well, yeah, and then to team as well, I guess, the whole spectrum there.
Well, the team really is the way I kind of work with my internal team is, I guess the best analogy or the best description that I've seen of it is probably Simon Sinek in his book Why. So basically making sure that the whole team understands why we're doing things, why the organization is doing things, and Jeff definitely believing in the purpose. And then his second book, which is Leaders Eat Last, was also quite interesting because the team really do need to believe that I have their best interests at heart. And if push comes to shove, then I'm the one that will actually go out there and make sure that they're being looked after. And while we can have some management conversations about accountability and responsibility and metrics and numbers, to be a leader, your team really need to believe that you will actually do what it takes to make them successful and to provide for them, and that the organization that you're leading it will be successful because you've got their best interests at heart, whatever they may be, whether it's just for their career point of view or for their emotional well-being or for their personal well-being. I think that comes through very strongly in small teams more than big teams, that you have to care about your people.
Yeah, care is at the center of the leadership model, isn't it, David? That's terrific. And I've experienced that from you. I've actually experienced that care as you've led me and worked with me as a partner, and I've experienced that care and that leadership that you've delivered to your team firsthand, and it's terrific. I wish there were more leaders like you out there, David. With that statement, though, tell me this. who's been your favorite leader, not naming anybody, and why, and who's been somebody that's been a leader in a way that hasn't been effective for you, and tell me why. Why did you have that experience with them, and tell me a little bit about that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, as I think through my kind of career, there's been people who I have more naturally been managed by, and then there's other people that I've been led by and more willing to be led by. I think that as you're kind of younger and go through your career, you are looking for management direction. So long as somebody in your organization is leading, it doesn't have to be a very close relationship that you have with the leader. They can be out there and you can see them. Those leaders don't necessarily need to be in your own organization. They can be anywhere in the world. And then there's kind of leadership styles, and Liz Wiseman in her book Multipliers did some good work, and that was helpful to me in really thinking about how I was communicating with internal and external partners, so internal employees and partners, and external, about the difference between a multiplier and a diminisher. And there's just subtle changes in style of leadership and really style of communication which you can deploy, which put you on either the multiplier or diminisher scale very, very easily. So that's a great book, well worth having a look at.
Awesome, David. I'll actually put that into the content for this week so people can check that out if they haven't seen that yet. Tell me a little bit about the importance of character traits in developing others, values, virtues. That moral piece. How important is that? Do you have to have a bit of that coming into this to be an effective leader?
Yeah, I think very, very much so. I mean, people can spot and see and believe in care and integrity very easily. It's very difficult to fake integrity. You either have it and display it. People can see it and smell it. So you have to really believe in what you're saying. And to be fair, there's many leaders, or there's definitely some leaders out there who are absolutely genuine and absolutely clear about what they want to do and why. And they're leading their tribe in what we would consider completely the wrong direction. So leaders can be very effective while believing in what they're doing, and so long as the tribe also believes in what you're doing, you can lead them. But it's very difficult to believe one thing and say something else and get people to follow you. I just don't think that is very easy to achieve. Manipulation of people is very difficult on a large and consistent and sustained. It just doesn't work. So fundamentally, you've got to believe in what you're doing. If you believe in what you're doing and you're absolutely convinced, and you display integrity around that, then you're on the route to being a leader.
Excellent, David. Excellent. You said some really good things there. You said managed versus led. You talked about care. You talked about integrity. I have two more questions for you, then I'm going to let you get on with your awesome evening and your family today. If you're to start developing others, what are some key steps to look at or to take in that development of team or others? So grab that one first, and then I have one more for you, and then I'll let you go today.
Okay, to develop others, I think that is there's lots of materials, there's lots of things. Liz Wiseman's book's a great starting place, and there's lots of material about how to develop goals for others, how to talk to others, how to get a balanced set of goals and objectives for your employees or your team. So that's relatively easy to go ahead and research. Hey, you have to want to do the research, and you have to want to get better at leading, which that probably rules out a significant number of people that can't really be bothered to develop themselves, and therefore are never going to be good at developing other people. But you just have to be very genuine. You asked me about my personal style a few minutes ago. I mean, I'm very candid. It gets me into trouble at times, but I believe in saying it fairly bluntly, fairly straightforwardly, the way it is, the way I see it. Have the conversation, and then come up with something that's purposeful and meaningful for the employee, for the person you're trying to develop, whether they're an individual that works for you or somebody in another organization, and then they can move forward. They can either accept that and move forward, or make their own decisions.
So you're saying for you, communication and that straightforward approach really works well.
Yeah, I think it's something that needs to develop. Well, you can have a really good why, you can have integrity, but if you don't communicate well, that can get in the way. So communication is a clear part of getting your message across. It needs to be a good message, but you do need to figure out how to communicate effectively. And of course, one style of communication with certain individuals will work, and the same style will not work with other individuals or other groups of individuals. So you have to figure out not just how to transmit, but how people want to receive the message, and without breaching your kind of your integrity or what you're trying to achieve. Figure out how to make it work.
Awesome, David. Well said. Last question, brother, then you're on your way. What advice do you have for leaders today? Maybe an emerging leader, or somebody that's been thrust into a leadership role for the first time, or maybe a young leader, or somebody that's developing their self and their leadership skills under your tutelage. Give me some advice there for these folks.
Yeah, good question. I mean, the points I think we've already covered. Believe, do the research, believe, really understand in what you're trying to do with yourself. Care about the people you're leading, care about the organization you're leading. Most importantly, care about the people actually that you're leading. The organizational bit will probably take care of itself if you know what you're trying to achieve and have got the right research done, and that that your business model or your personal model or your moral model is sound. It's caring about the people that you're trying to lead. That's what will make them follow you, and leaders have people following them. That's exactly what we want to achieve. And then just have some empathy. So empathy in the communication, empathy in the style that you operate, empathy in that, you have bad days, other people have bad days. It doesn't make them a bad person. But all in all, we want to be generally moving in the right direction as fast as we can, but at a pace that everybody's kind of comfortable with, as long as we're just pushing it along a bit, but reasonably comfortable with.
Awesome, David. Awesome, brother. Thank you for the strong interview, the time, for your integrity, for your leadership. I look forward to seeing you in Cheltenham soon, and then out here in Arizona. I'm going to put a bit of your contact information out, David, because you are a fine leader, and I think people need to gravitate and to have the connection to other fine leaders and people out there in the world that care. So thank you for the connection today, David, the time, the insights, and for you being open to others about leadership and developing others.
My pleasure. Look forward to working with you again very soon, Jeremiah. Take care now.
Thanks, David. Cheers, brother. Have a great night. Bless you guys. Talk to you soon. Sharks out. Let me put these guys on, though, real quick here, and then we'll end this sucker. All right, now we can go. Thanks, David.